My brother screamed. She attacked me. Mom dialed 911, claiming I was armed and hunting them down. When they arrived, I just smiled. Officer, please watch this. Moments later, Dad's face went pale. It wasn't a knock. You know the sound of a respectful knock? That distinct rap of knuckles on wood that asks for permission? This wasn't that. This was a rhythmic, heavy thudding, like someone was trying to tenderize a steak using the palm of their hand against my bedroom door. Thud, thud, thud. I didn't flinch. At least, I tried not to. My fingers hovered over my mechanical keyboard, the RGB backlighting casting a soft, purple glow across my knuckles. On the dual monitors in front of me, lines of code and high-resolution interface designs were finally starting to align. I was Valerie, 26 years old, and inside this room, I was a professional UI designer on the verge of the biggest payout of my career. Outside this room, I was just the spare part, the invisible daughter. Thud, thud, thud. Valerie, I know you're in there. Don't pretend you're asleep. The voice was muffled by the solid oak door I'd paid to have installed last year, but the whine in the tone was unmistakable. Dustin, my 23-year-old brother. The golden boy who had never done a wrong thing in his life, according to our parents, despite a track record that suggested otherwise. I glanced at the clock in the corner of my screen. 11:15 at night. I had been working since 6 in the morning. My eyes felt like they were filled with sand, and my lower back was a dull ache that wouldn't quit. This project for the fintech startup was due at 8 in the morning. 8 sharp. If I delivered the final assets and the code was clean, I would trigger the release of the completion clause. $15,000. $15,000. That wasn't just money. That was a down payment on a condo in the city. It was first and last month's rent, plus moving costs, plus a safety net. It was my freedom fund. It was the only thing keeping me sane in this house where the walls seemed to breathe disappointment every time I walked down the hall. Valerie, open the damn door. I sighed, saving my work. Control+S. The muscle memory was a prayer. I adjusted my noise-canceling headphones, but I didn't turn the music up yet. Instead, I clicked the small icon in the tray of my desktop. A window popped up, showing the feed from the camera I'd hidden in the hallway cornice disguised as a smoke detector. There he was, Dustin. Even in the grainy night vision, he looked disheveled. He was wearing that expensive streetwear hoodie Mom had bought him last week, the one that cost more than my car insurance for 6 months. He was leaning against the doorframe, kicking the bottom of the wood with his heel now. Inside my room, the air was cool, smelling faintly of the lavender oil from my diffuser. It was meticulous, organized, a sanctuary. Outside, Dustin was bringing chaos. He always brought chaos. I shouldn't have been living here. I knew that. But when rent prices in the Bay Area skyrocketed 2 years ago, moving back into my parents' large, hollow house in Palm Springs seemed like the logical financial move. Just for a year, I told myself, save money, build the client list, get out. But the glass child syndrome is hard to shake. When you spend your whole life being the one who doesn't need help, your parents assume you exist solely to provide it. Dustin kicked the door again. I need cash, Val. Seriously. I didn't answer. I just watched him on the screen. He looked desperate, but not the kind of desperate that comes from tragedy. It was the desperation of an addict or a spoiled brat who had been told no for the first time in hours. I turned back to my work. The interface needed one last tweak on the mobile responsiveness. Focus, Valerie. Focus. This money is your ticket. Once that wire transfer hits, you are gone. You are a ghost. But the thudding didn't stop. It only got faster. Val, come on. I know you can hear me. The lights are on under the door. I swiveled my chair around, pulling one ear cup back. Go to bed, Dustin, I said, my voice barely raised. I knew the acoustics of the house. He could hear me. I can't go to bed, he shouted back, his mouth close to the crack in the doorframe. I need the keys to the Civic. And I need, like, $300. I actually laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. No. What do you mean, no? Mom said you'd help me out if I needed it. Mom isn't here, Dustin. Mom and Dad are in Vegas, remember? Losing my inheritance at the slot machines. They'll be back tonight, he snapped. Just give me the money. I have a thing. An interview. Early tomorrow. An interview at midnight that requires $300. I asked, looking at the camera feed again. He was pacing now. You're going to a club, or you owe someone money. Either way, It's not my problem. You're such a selfish witch, he spat. The venom in his voice was familiar. It was the same tone he used when we were teenagers and I refused to do his homework. You're sitting in there on your computer playing games while I'm trying to actually do something with my life. I'm working, I said, my patience thinning like a worn-out rubber band. I have a deadline. Go away. I'm taking the spare key then, he threatened. Go ahead, I said, turning back to my screens. I rekeyed the Civic 2 days ago. The spare on the hook downstairs won't turn the ignition. Silence. I watched the screen. Dustin froze. His face went through a complex journey of confusion, realization, and then pure, unadulterated rage. I had learned my lesson. 3 months ago, he had taken my car without asking. He brought it back with a cracked bumper and the smell of cheap beer soaked into the upholstery. When I confronted Mom, Lorraine, she had sighed and said, "Oh, Valerie, don't make a scene. He was just stressed. You know how hard he's trying to find his path. You have insurance, don't you? Just fix it. Just fix it." That was the family motto. Valerie fixes it. Valerie pays for it. Valerie cleans it up. Not this time. You changed the locks? Dustin yelled, slamming his fist against the wood so hard the picture frame on my side of the wall rattled. That's my car too. We're family. It's in my name, Dustin. I pay the insurance. I pay the gas. It's my car. I'm going to tell them, he hissed. When they get home, I'm going to tell them what you're doing. Treating me like garbage. You do that, I murmured, sliding my headphones back over my ears. I tapped the icon for my smart lock app on my phone, checking the status. Deadbolt engaged. I tried to dive back into the code. The CSS grid on the landing page was misaligned by 2 pixels. 2 pixels. It was a tiny error, but in my world, perfection was the baseline. I needed to fix it. But my heart was hammering against my ribs. It wasn't fear exactly. I wasn't afraid of Dustin physically. He was all bark and thin limbs. I was afraid of the exhaustion. I was afraid of the emotional toll. I was 26, and I felt 80. I felt like I was carrying the weight of 3 adults on my back, and one of them was constantly kicking me in the ribs. On the screen, Dustin gave the door one last, vicious kick. Then he turned and stomped down the hall, disappearing toward the stairs. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I had maybe 2 hours of peace before the real storm arrived. The peace lasted exactly 2 hours and 14 minutes. At 2:30 in the morning, the motion sensor on the driveway camera triggered a notification on my second monitor. I blinked, fighting the blurriness in my vision. I had finished the main code structure. Now I was just double-checking the asset exports. I was so close. I clicked the notification. The grainy black and white feed showed my parents' SUV pulling into the driveway. They were home early. They weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow afternoon. The car door opened, and my father, Carl, stepped out. Even in the low light, his posture screamed defeat. His shoulders were slumped, his head down. Mom, Lorraine, got out of the passenger side. She slammed the door hard enough that the camera microphone picked up the echo. They lost. They definitely lost money. I knew the signs. If they had won, they would have stayed another night, drunk on complimentary champagne and the high of victory. Coming home at 2:30 in the morning meant the credit line was maxed out and the mood was toxic. I watched as they walked to the front door. I debated turning off the lights and pretending to be asleep, but I still had 45 minutes of work left to guarantee the upload speed. I switched the camera view to the living room. Dustin was there. Of course he was. He was lying on the couch, holding his arm as if it were made of glass. He had set the stage. As soon as Mom walked in, throwing her purse onto the armchair with aggressive force, Dustin let out a low groan. Dustin. Mom's voice was sharp, brittle. What are you doing up? Mom. Dustin sat up, wincing theatrically. He cradled his right forearm. You're back. Thank God. What happened? Dad asked, walking in behind Mom, looking for a bottle of water. He looked tired of everything, tired of the drive, tired of the losses, tired of life. It's Valerie, Dustin lied. The smoothness of it made my stomach churn. I watched from my safe tower upstairs, witnessing the performance of a lifetime. I went up to ask her if she needed anything. I knew you guys were coming back late. I just wanted to check on her. And Mom stopped moving. Her radar for drama pinged. She was screaming at her computer. Like, really losing it. I tried to calm her down, and she just slammed her door. She caught my arm in the frame. He hissed in fake pain. I think it might be fractured, Mom. It hurts so bad. She slammed the door on you? Mom's voice went up an octave. It wasn't concern for Dustin, not really. It was an outlet. She was angry about the casino, angry about the drive, and now she had a target. Yeah. And then she laughed. She said I deserved it for interrupting her genius work. Let me see, Dad said, stepping closer. No, don't touch it. Dustin pulled away. It's throbbing. I didn't want to call the police or anything. I didn't want to get her in trouble. The police? Mom repeated. My God, she didn't ask for proof. She didn't come upstairs to ask for my side of the story. She didn't consider that her son, who had acted in high school theater, might be acting now. She just turned toward the stairs, her face contorted in a mask of righteous indignation. Valerie, she screamed. I sat in my chair, staring at the screen. I saw her storming toward the hallway. I saw Dad sigh, grab a beer from the fridge, and sink into the recliner, deciding to let his wife handle the discipline. He was the enabler by omission. She was the enabler by action. I took off my headphones. I didn't need the camera anymore. I could hear her footsteps pounding up the stairs, heavier and angrier than Dustin's had been. She reached my door and didn't even knock. She grabbed the handle and rattled it violently. Unlock this door right now, Valerie. Do you hear me? You hurt your brother. I didn't touch him, Mom. I said, my voice calm flat. The gray rock technique. Be boring. Be unreactive. He's lying. He wanted money, and I said no. Don't you lie to me, she shrieked. He's downstairs in agony. Open this door and apologize to him. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I'm working, Mom. I have a deadline in 5 hours. We can talk in the morning. There won't be a morning if you don't open this door, she threatened. I will take that door off the hinges. Go to bed, Mom, I said, turning back to my code. My hands were shaking slightly, hovering over the keys. Check the hallway camera if you don't believe me. I don't need to check anything. I know my son. She kicked the door once, a solid thud that matched her son's earlier rhythm. Then, realizing the deadbolt held firm, she let out a frustrated growl. You deal with this tomorrow, she yelled through the wood. You are going to pay for his medical bills. And you are going to give him an apology on your knees. Do you hear me? I heard her. The whole neighborhood probably heard her. I watched on the monitor as she stomped back downstairs to comfort her poor, injured soldier. I took a deep breath, saved my file one last time, and initiated the upload to the client's server. 3 hours until dawn. Just survive the night. The sun rose over Palm Springs with a deceptive beauty. Golden light filtered through my blinds, painting stripes across the floor where I had slept for maybe 3 hours on a yoga mat. I hadn't dared to go to my actual bed. The floor felt more alert, more ready. At 7:30, I received the automated email. Project files received. Review pending. I let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped in my lungs for a decade. It was done. The $15,000 was in escrow. Once they approved the files, usually a 24-hour turnaround, the money would release. I needed coffee. My brain felt like it was wrapped in cotton wool. I unlocked my door, the smart lock chirping softly, and stepped into the hallway. The house was silent. Too silent. I walked down the stairs, my socks sliding on the polished hardwood. In the kitchen, the scene was set. It looked like a tribunal. Dad was at the head of the table, staring into a black coffee mug. Mom was standing by the stove, flipping pancakes with aggressive motions. And there, sitting at the table like a prince in exile, was Dustin. His arm was wrapped in an ACE bandage that looked like he had applied it himself, loose and unprofessional. As soon as I entered, the air pressure in the room dropped. Look who decided to join the living, Mom said, not turning around. I walked to the coffee pot. Good morning to you too. Don't you dare pour yourself coffee from that pot. Mom snapped. That coffee is for family. People who actually care about each other. I paused, mug in hand. I looked at Dad. Dad? Seriously? Dad looked up, his eyes bloodshot. Valerie, just do what your mother says. We're all tired. I'm not doing anything, I said, pouring the coffee anyway. I took a sip, black. It burned, and I welcomed it. I submitted the project. I'm going to pack some things and go stay at a hotel for a few days until you guys cool off. You're not going anywhere, Dustin said, smirking over his glass of orange juice. Not until you pay me for my arm. Your arm is fine, Dustin, I said, leaning against the counter. I have video footage of you kicking my door. I have video footage of you downstairs telling Mom I slammed it on you. At no point did the door touch you. I don't care about your stupid spy cameras. Mom turned around, spatula in hand. It's the principal, Valerie. You locked him out. You made him feel unwelcome in his own home. He wanted $300 for a club night, Mom. And my car keys. So? He's your brother. You make all this money sitting in your room, clicking buttons, and you can't help him out? We are a family. I pay the internet bill, I said, my voice rising slightly. I pay half the electricity. I buy my own groceries. That's rent. Dad slammed his hand on the table. It was a rare outburst from him. That is the bare minimum. You live under my roof. I looked at him. This man used to carry me on his shoulders at the zoo. Now, he looked at me like I was a tenant he couldn't evict legally. Okay, I said quietly. If that's how it is, I'm moving out. As soon as the client pays me, I'm gone. You're not leaving, Mom said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Because if you leave without making this right, without apologizing to your brother and giving him the money he needs for his physical therapy, then you are dead to us. Do you understand? I will cut you off. Cut me off from what? I asked, genuinely curious. From the insults? From the gaslighting? From everything, she hissed. And don't think we don't know about your little side business. That digital art stuff. We can shut that down too. I frowned. What are you talking about? Just fix it, Valerie, Dad grumbled. Give him $500 for the trouble, apologize, and let's just have a nice breakfast. $500. The price of peace had gone up due to inflation, apparently. No, I said. I set the mug down. Not a cent. I turned and walked out of the kitchen. Behind me, I heard glass shatter, Mom throwing the spatula, or maybe a plate into the sink. You'll regret this. Dustin shouted. You think you're so smart, Val? Watch what happens. I should have listened. I should have taken the threat seriously. But I was too focused on the $15,000. I went back to my room, locked the door, and collapsed onto my yoga mat. I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep, unaware that the termites were already eating the foundation of my life. I woke up at 1 in the afternoon. My phone was vibrating against the floorboards like a dying insect. It wasn't a call. It was notification after notification. I rubbed my eyes, feeling that groggy disorientation that comes from sleeping during the day. I picked up the phone. 74 missed notifications. Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, LinkedIn. My stomach dropped. The first notification I saw was from LinkedIn. Security alert. New login from Windows PC. The second was an email from the fintech client. The subject line was simply, contract terminated, immediate effect. I sat up, the blood draining from my face. I scrambled to my desk and woke up my PC. I tried to log into my primary email. Password incorrect. I typed it again. Password incorrect. I tried the recovery option. Recovery email sent to d*******@yahoo.com. That wasn't my recovery email. That was Dustin's old email from high school. Dustin_the_destroyer@yahoo.com. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely type. I went to my portfolio website. The elegant, minimalist homepage I had spent years curating was gone. In its place was a crude, low-resolution image of a middle finger, and below it, text that read, Valerie is a scammer. She steals art. She hates her family. Do not hire. I couldn't breathe. The walls of the room seemed to be closing in. I pulled up Twitter. My account, which had 5,000 followers, mostly industry professionals, was churning out tweets. Just stole another design, lol. Clients are so stupid. My parents are the worst. Hope they die in a fire. Anyone want to buy my body? Art isn't paying the bills. Attached to the last tweet was a photo. It was a photo of me from our family vacation 3 years ago, in a bikini. It wasn't nude, but the context, the caption, it was vile. I gagged. I physically gagged. Dustin. He hadn't hacked the mainframe. He hadn't written a script. He had used social engineering. He knew the answers to my security questions. What was the name of your first pet? Buster. The golden retriever we grew up with. What is your mother's maiden name? Miller. What elementary school did you attend? Lincoln Elementary. He used our shared childhood, the memories I thought were sacred, the few good things we had, to destroy me. He weaponized our history. I opened the email from the client again. I needed to read the body text. Dear Valerie, we have been alerted to the disturbing content posted on your verified social media channels. as well as the alteration of your professional website. As per the morality clause in our contract, Section 4.2, we are terminating this agreement immediately. The escrow funds have been returned to our account. Do not contact us. $15,000. Gone. 3 years of reputation building. Gone. I stared at the screen. I didn't cry. I think I went into shock. The world turned gray. The sounds of the house, the hum of the AC, the distant television downstairs, faded into a buzzing white noise. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a brotherly shove. This was nuclear warfare. He had taken my freedom fund. He had locked me in the cage and thrown away the key. I looked at the hallway camera feed. The door to Dustin's room was closed, but I knew he was in there. I could imagine him sitting in his gaming chair, laughing, feeling powerful for the first time in his mediocre life. I stood up. My legs felt like lead. I walked to the mirror on the back of my door. I looked at myself. I looked pale, small, terrified. No, I whispered. I wasn't small. I wasn't a victim. I was the one who fixed things. I walked back to the desk. I sat down. I cracked my knuckles. He wanted a digital war? He was fighting a UI designer with full admin access to the home network. The first rule of crisis management: stop the bleeding. I disconnected my PC from the Wi-Fi and tethered it to my phone's 5G hotspot. I couldn't trust the home network anymore. I spent the next hour locking down what I could. I called my bank and froze my cards. I contacted LinkedIn support with my passport photo to prove identity. Then, I went on the offensive. I logged into the router's admin panel. Dad had never changed the default password. It was literally admin and password. I pulled the logs for the last 12 hours. There it was. A device named Dustin PC Alienware had accessed the router at 12:45 p.m. It had sent a staggering amount of packets. I cross-referenced the timestamps with the tweets and the website changes. Perfect match. He was sloppy. He didn't use a VPN. He didn't mask his MAC address. He logged into my accounts from the same IP address he used to play Call of Duty. I took screenshots. I exported the logs to a CSV file. I saved everything to an encrypted USB drive, then backed it up to a cloud server he didn't know existed. My phone rang. It was Nana Beatrice. My grandmother was the only person in this family with a spine made of steel. She was living in a retirement community in Arizona now, but she still had her ear to the ground. Valerie. Her voice was sharp. Why is my bridge club friend telling me your Twitter says you're selling intimate services? Dustin hacked me, Nana. I said, my voice finally breaking. He destroyed everything. The contract. The money. It's all gone. Silence on the other end. Then, a slow, deep inhale. Are you safe? She asked. Physically? Yes. For now. Listen to me, Nana said. Do not scream. Do not cry in front of them. Do not give them the satisfaction. That is what they want. They want you to be the crazy one so they can justify how they treat you. I know, I whispered. Gray rock. Exactly. Be a gray rock. But be a rock that collects evidence. Document everything. Every word. Every text. Every look. I am. Good girl. I'm transferring $5,000 to your emergency account. It's not 15, but it's enough to hire a lawyer if you need one. Nana, I can't. Hush. It's an investment. I expect a return on it when you're a famous CEO. Now go downstairs. Face them. But don't fight them. Let them hang themselves. I hung up. I felt a tiny spark of warmth in my chest. I wasn't alone. I looked at the folder on my desktop named case_file. It was full. Logs. Videos. Screenshots. I needed one more thing. I needed them to admit it. I checked the time. 5:30 p.m. Dinner time. I stood up, smoothed my shirt, and unlocked the door. If you are enjoying this story and you want to see justice served, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And tell me in the comments, what city are you listening from? It helps the video reach more people. Thank you. I walked down the stairs like I was walking to the gallows, or maybe the guillotine. I wasn't sure which role I was playing yet, the condemned or the executioner. The smell of meatloaf filled the house. It was a smell I usually associated with comfort, but tonight it smelled like stagnation. They were all in the kitchen. Mom was serving plates. Dad was pouring wine, a cheap Merlot. Dustin was already eating, using his left hand, his broken right arm resting on the table like a trophy. I walked in holding a manila folder. Just a simple folder. Well, Mom said, slamming a spoonful of mashed potatoes onto a plate. She emerges. Are you ready to apologize? I didn't sit down. I stood at the end of the island. I know what you did, Dustin. Dustin didn't look up. He shoveled a forkful of peas into his mouth. I don't know what you're talking about. You hacked my accounts, I said, my voice steady. You guessed my security questions. You posted obscene things. You got my contract canceled. You cost me $15,000. Dad looked up, frowning. What? 15,000? Valerie, don't exaggerate. I have the logs, Dad, I said, tapping the folder. I have the IP address. It came from his computer. It's a federal crime. CFAA violation. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Oh, stop it with the lawyers speak. Mom waved her hand dismissively. He played a prank on you because you were mean to him. You probably deserved it. A prank. I stared at her. He ruined my career, Mom. He put child pornography on my website. Liar. Dustin jumped up, his chair scraping loudly against the tile. I didn't put porn on there. It was just a finger. Sit down, Dustin, Dad said, looking weary. No, she's lying. She's trying to frame me because she hates me. Dustin's face was turning red. He was losing control of the narrative. She's always been jealous of me because I'm happy and she's miserable. I'm not jealous of a 23-year-old who steals money from his sister, I said coldly. Dustin grabbed a glass of water and threw it. Not at me, but near me. It shattered on the floor, sending shards and water across the tiles. Get out, he screamed. Get away from me. I stepped back instinctively. My hand rested on the countertop, near the fruit bowl. There was a butter knife there, a dull, silver butter knife used for spreading jam on toast. My pinky finger brushed against the handle. Mom's eyes went wide. She saw an opportunity. She's going for the knife. Mom screamed. It was so absurd I almost laughed. What, Carl? She's got a knife. She's going to stab him. Mom lunged forward, grabbing Dustin and pulling him behind her as if I were a serial killer. Mom, it's a butter knife, I said, lifting my hands to show they were empty. And I'm not touching it. I saw you, Dustin yelled, peering over Mom's shoulder. She grabbed it. She pointed it at me. She has crazy eyes, Dad. Look at her eyes. Dad stood up, looking confused. Valerie, just go to your room. I didn't do anything. I yelled, finally breaking the gray rock facade. The injustice was too sharp, too sudden. Go, Mom shrieked. Before I called the police, I looked at them. The tableau of insanity. The mother shielding the predator. The father looking at the floor. The son smiling that little, hidden smile behind his mother's shoulder. I turned and ran. I ran up the stairs, my heart pounding in my throat. I slammed my door, locked the deadbolt, and pushed my heavy dresser in front of it. I wasn't safe. Not anymore. I sat on the floor, my back against the dresser, breathing hard. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. Then I heard it. My security system has audio. I pulled up the app on my phone. The microphone in the downstairs hallway picked up Mom's voice. She was in the foyer by the landline phone. Yes. 911. Please hurry. My blood ran cold. My daughter, Mom sobbed into the phone. It was a performance worthy of an Oscar. She's having a psychotic break. Yes. She's 26. Pause. She has a weapon. A knife. A large kitchen knife. I covered my mouth to stop a scream. She threatened to kill her brother. She said she was going to slit his throat. She's locked herself in her room now, but I don't know. She might have other weapons in there. She's been acting strange for weeks. Talking to herself. Paranoid. She is extremely violent, Mom continued. We are terrified. Please, send someone. We need her. We need her taken away. For observation. Section 5150. Yes. She hung up. I stared at the phone screen. Section 5150. Involuntary psychiatric hold. If they succeeded, if the police believed them, I would be dragged out in handcuffs. I would be thrown into a psych ward for 72 hours. My record would be marked. My credibility would be destroyed forever. With a history of violence and mental instability, I would never get a security clearance, never get a high-level corporate job. They could even petition for conservatorship if they played it right. They weren't just kicking me out. They were trying to own me. I stood up. The fear vanished. It was replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. It was the same feeling I got when a server crashed 5 minutes before launch. Total focus. I had about 10 minutes before the police arrived. I didn't pack a bag. That would look like I was fleeing. I didn't hide. That would look like guilt. I walked to my desk. I woke up my laptop. I connected an HDMI cable from my laptop to the 50-inch television mounted on my wall facing the door. I opened my evidence folder. I queued up the video files. I opened the router logs. I opened the audio recording of the 911 call I had just listened to. I synced everything. Then I went to my closet. I took off my oversized hoodie and sweatpants. I put on a white silk blouse and black slacks. I brushed my hair. I put on my glasses. I didn't look like a violent psychotic. I looked like a CEO prepared for a board meeting. I sprayed a little lavender room spray. The room smelled like a spa, not a crime scene. I sat down in my ergonomic chair, facing the door. I placed my hands on my lap. I was ready. The minutes ticked by. I watched the driveway camera on my secondary monitor. I thought about Nana Beatrice. Do not engage until you have the kill shot. This was it. They had escalated this to a life-or-death situation. Calling the police on a family member and claiming they have a weapon is swatted. People die in these situations. If I made a sudden move when the cops entered, they could shoot me. Mom knew that. Or maybe she was too stupid to know that. Either way, she had pulled the trigger. I analyzed my position. The weapon narrative was their only card. If I could disprove the weapon, their entire story would crumble. But it wasn't enough to just not have a knife. I had to prove the intent of the lie. I checked the timestamp on the hallway video. 17 hours and 42 minutes. I enter the kitchen. 17 hours, 45 minutes and 12 seconds. I leave the kitchen. My hands are empty. 17 hours, 45 minutes and 15 seconds. Mom screams about the knife. The camera angle was perfect. It showed the kitchen island. It showed the fruit bowl. It showed the butter knife resting undisturbed on the marble counter as I ran out of the room. It was irrefutable. I heard the sirens in the distance. A wail that grew louder and louder, piercing the suburban quiet of Palm Springs. My heart rate monitor on my watch read 120 beats per minute. I took deep breaths. Box breathing. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. I needed to be the calmest person in the room. The sirens cut off abruptly as the cruisers turned onto our street. Blue and red lights flashed through my blinds, strobing across the walls like a disco from hell. I heard car doors slam. Heavy boots on the pavement. The crackle of police radios. Unit 4 Alpha on scene. Possible 5150 with a weapon. Proceeding with caution. I heard the doorbell ring. Then aggressive knocking. Downstairs, the performance began. I heard Mom wailing. Officer. Thank God. She's upstairs. She's crazy. Where is she, ma'am? A deep, authoritative voice. Second floor. Last door on the left. Please, don't hurt her. But, she has a knife. She said she'd kill us all. Stay back, ma'am. Stay outside. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. Not one person. 2. Maybe 3. They were coming for me. I unlocked the smart lock via my phone app, but I didn't open the door. I wanted them to enter my space. My controlled environment. I sat straight. I fixed my glasses. I looked at the dark screen of the TV, ready to bring it to life. This was my courtroom, and court was in session. The pounding on my door was different this time. It wasn't Dustin's rhythmic annoyance. It was the authoritative, demand compliance banging of law enforcement. Police department. Open the door. I didn't yell back. I didn't want to sound agitated. I simply tapped the open icon on my phone app again to disengage the magnetic latch and called out in a clear, projected voice. The door is unlocked, officer. Please come in. The handle turned. The door swung open fast. 2 officers filled the doorway. One was older, holding a taser. The other, younger, had his hand on his holster. They scanned the room instantly. Hands. Let me see your hands, the older officer shouted. I already had my hands raised, palms open, resting near my shoulders. I sat perfectly still. My hands are visible, officer, I said calmly. I am unarmed. There are no weapons in this room. The older officer, whose name tag read Grady, moved into the room. He checked the corners. He checked under the bed. He looked at me. He saw a young woman in business attire, sitting in a room that looked like a NASA control center, smelling of lavender. He holstered his taser. Ma'am, stand up slowly. Turn around. I complied. I am standing up. I am turning around. You can check me. He patted me down quickly. Nothing. We received a call that you were threatening your family with a large kitchen knife, Officer Grady said, stepping back. His eyes were narrowing. He was sensing the disconnect between the dispatch call and the reality. I know, I said, turning back to face him. My mother made that call. She lied. That's a serious accusation, the younger officer said. It is, I agreed. And swatting your daughter is a serious crime. Officer, before you take me downstairs or put me in cuffs, I am asking you, begging you, to give me 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes to show you something. We need to sort this out downstairs, Grady said. If you take me downstairs, they will scream and create chaos. I said. Please, look at the screen. I pointed to the 50-inch TV. Grady looked at his partner, then at me. 1 minute. I sat down and hit the spacebar. The screen flared to life. This is from 10 minutes ago, I narrated. The video played. It was the kitchen feed. High definition. Audio crisp. It showed me standing by the island. It showed Dustin throwing the water glass. It showed me stepping back. It showed the butter knife sitting on the counter, untouched. Then, it showed me running away, empty-handed. Then, the audio from the 911 call played over the video of Mom standing in the foyer. She has a large kitchen knife. She threatened to slit his throat. The contrast was brutal. The lie hung in the air, undeniable. Officer Grady's jaw tightened. Wait, I said. There's more. I switched to the next clip. The router logs. My brother claimed I hacked myself to destroy my own career. These are the server logs. They show the unauthorized access coming from his device, Dustin PC Alienware, located in the bedroom next door. He used my childhood security questions to bypass two-factor authentication. I played the audio clip from the Discord chat. I had pulled this from the hallway camera which picked up sound through his thin door just an hour ago. Dustin's voice, tinny but clear. Dude, I totally wrecked her. She lost the contract. 15 grand, poof. That's what she gets for being a bitch. Mom's totally on my side. She thinks Val is losing it. The younger officer let out a low whistle. This isn't a mental health crisis, officer, I said, turning to Grady. This is a domestic abuse situation. Financial abuse. Cyberstalking. And now, filing a false police report to entrap me. Officer Grady stared at the screen. The colors from the monitor reflected in his eyes. He looked angry. Not at me. Is this footage backed up? He asked. Cloud server, encrypted USB, and emailed to my attorney. I lied about the attorney, but he didn't need to know that. Good. Grady adjusted his belt. Stay here. He walked to the door and shouted down the stairs. Mr. and Mrs. Miller. Dustin. Up here. Now. Is she arrested? Mom's voice floated up, hopeful. Up here. Now. Grady barked. They came up the stairs. Mom looked smug. Dustin looked excited. Dad looked sick. They crowded into the doorway. When they saw me sitting at my desk, uncuffed, Mom's face fell. Why isn't she in handcuffs? Mom demanded. She's dangerous. Step inside, Grady commanded. He pointed to the TV. Watch. He replayed the kitchen video. The butter knife sitting still. The empty hands. Then he played Mom's 911 call. Mom turned pale. She looked like a ghost. She started to stammer. Well, from my angle, it looked like. From your angle? Grady stepped into her personal space. Ma'am, the knife never moved. You lied to a 911 operator. You told us there was an imminent threat to life. Do you know we came in here with guns drawn? Do you know I almost unholstered my weapon because of your call? I was protecting my son. Mom shrieked, her defense mechanism kicking in. Protecting him from what? A butter knife that wasn't touched. Grady pointed at Dustin. And you. We heard the recording. You admitted to destroying her property. That's illegal. Dustin shouted. You can't record me. In your own home? In common areas? Yes, she can, Grady said. And guess what? Hacking is a federal crime, son. The room went silent. The only sound was the whirring of my computer fans. Dad finally spoke. He looked at the screen, then at Mom. Lorraine, you said she had a butcher knife. She did. In her eyes. She wanted to use it. Mom was grasping at straws, flailing in the quicksand of her own making. That's enough, Officer Grady said. His voice was cold, professional, and final. He turned to me. Valerie, you have a few options here. We can arrest your mother for filing a false report. We can arrest your brother for the cyber crimes, although that might need to go through the FBI or a dedicated cyber unit. Or I can issue an emergency protective order right now, which forces them to stay away from you. I looked at them. Dustin was trembling. The golden boy was tarnished. He looked small. Mom was crying, but they were tears of fear, not remorse. Dad was looking at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. I want the protective order, I said. And I want a police report file for the false 911 call. I need it from my lawyer. Done, Grady said. You can't do this. Mom wailed. This is her house. We are her parents. Actually, ma'am, Grady said, pulling out his notepad. If I issue this order, you might be the ones who have to leave, or she leaves safely with an escort. But given the hostility here, he looked at me. Do you have somewhere to go? I'll go to a hotel, I said. I can't stay here tonight. Smart choice, Grady said. He turned to his partner. Escort the parents and the son downstairs. They are to sit on the couch and not move until Ms. Miller has packed her bag and left. If they move, cuff them. Yes, sir. The partner herded them out. Dustin tried to give me a dirty look, but he just looked like a scared child. Mom was sobbing. My baby, reaching for Dustin. They disappeared down the stairs. Officer Grady stayed behind. He looked at me, his expression softening. You did good, he said. Most people, they crack. You kept your head. I didn't have a choice, I said, my voice finally trembling as the adrenaline crashed. Make sure you keep those videos, he said. Civil court is going to love them. I stood up. My legs felt weak. I grabbed my laptop, my hard drives, and threw some clothes into a duffel bag. I took one last look at my room. My sanctuary. It didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a battlefield I had survived. I walked out the door, past the camera that saved my life, and down the stairs. I didn't look at my family sitting on the couch, guarded by the officer. I walked out into the cool night air. The flashing lights of the police car were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. They looked like freedom. I spent the next 3 nights at a Hyatt 2 towns over. Nana Beatrice paid for the suite. On the second morning, I met with Dana, a lawyer Nana had recommended. She was a shark in a Prada suit. When I showed her the videos and the police report, she didn't smile. She just nodded, her eyes gleaming. We have them on defamation, filing a false report, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and CFA violations for the brother, Dana listed, tapping her pen. And we can sue for the lost contract value plus damages. 40,000, easily. Maybe more. Do it, I said. Burn it down. We served them the papers 3 days later. I didn't go back to the house. I hired movers to get the rest of my furniture while the police supervised. Mom tried to talk to me while the movers were loading my desk. She stood by the truck, looking old and frail. Valerie, please. You're suing your own family? We'll lose the house. I looked at her. I adjusted my sunglasses. You should have thought of that before you called the police and told them I had a knife, Mom. I was scared. No, you weren't. You were vindictive. I signaled the driver to go. Talk to my lawyer. The fallout was swift. Without my contribution to the bills, and with the legal fees piling up for Dustin's criminal defense. Yes, the district attorney picked up the case for the false report and the hacking. Their financial house of cards collapsed. Dustin took a plea deal. Misuse of emergency services and unauthorized computer access. He got 3 years probation, community service, and a permanent criminal record. He works at an Amazon warehouse now. No more interviews at midnight. Dad finally snapped, but not at me. He snapped at Mom. He blamed her for the 911 call. They are still together, but from what Nana tells me, they sleep in separate rooms and mostly communicate through silence. I am sitting on the balcony of my new apartment in San Diego. It overlooks the ocean. It's small, but it's mine. I managed to salvage my career. I wrote a blog post about the security breach, without naming names, and how I handled it. It went viral on LinkedIn. Another startup admired the forensic mindset and hired me as a lead UX researcher. The pay is better than the contract I lost. I have almost no contact with them. Nana Beatrice moved into a luxury assisted living facility near me. We have tea every Sunday. She is the only family I claim. Yesterday, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was Mom's cursive. I held it over my lighter for a long time. Curiosity is a curse. I opened it. Dear Valerie, Christmas is coming up. Your father misses you. We forgive you for the lawsuit. We know you were under stress. Please come home. We can be a family again. Dustin is sorry too. We forgive you. Not, we are sorry. Not, we were wrong. We forgive you. They had rewritten history. In their minds, I was still the villain who caused the trouble, and they were the benevolent saints willing to take me back. I laughed. It was a genuine, full-throated laugh that startled a seagull perched on the railing. I took the letter and the envelope. I put them in a metal bowl I keep on the table for citronella candles. I lit the corner of the paper. I watched the words, "We forgive you," curl into black ash. I poured a glass of wine. I looked at the sunset bleeding into the Pacific Ocean. I walked away while they drowned in the mess they created. They say family is everything. But what happens when family tries to destroy you? Did I go too far by suing them and leaving them to rot? Or did I finally stand up and save my own life? Thank you for listening to this story. If you've ever had to cut off toxic family members to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of justice.